everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today for another video. Today I am absolutely mind blown because there are 100 of you watching. What? I wanted to make some kind of special video in honor of reaching 100 subscribers. And I spent hours trying to come up with what I was gonna do to celebrate that, and I came up with nothing. And I tried to ask you guys on Instagram what you guys thought would be fun for this amazing milestone, and you guys didn't write any suggestions either, so that's awkward. I'm just so in awe that there are 100 people watching, there are 100 people subscribed, there are 100 of you out there. Oh, hello to all of you. I'm so glad you're here. You have no idea how much it means to me. Like, every single one of you means something to me. And I'm just, round of applause for you guys, okay? That's a thing. Now, it may seem like I'm going on a really random tangent here, but I promise it'll make sense in a minute. As you guys know, I am a part of Connilyn Cossette's launch team for her next book, Shelter of the Most High, which is amazing. I've already done a video on why you should read Connilyn Cossette's book, but since I did promise to build the hype for that book, and I'm loving it so far, I did want to do something fun for this video in honor of that as well, because those books are some of the books that got me into reading, and, you know, ultimately, that got me into blogging, which ultimately got me here to you guys and got me to 100 subscribers, like what? So I'm going to be doing 100 things that I love about Connilyn Cossette's books. 100. You heard that right. 100. So I need to get a notebook out so that I can keep track of all the things. There, that looks kind of cool. I did a thing. All right. So I'll be using this to keep tally. If I ever get to 1,000 subscribers, no, I cannot come up with 1,000 things that I love. I'll have to come up with a different idea, but I think 100 will be a fun challenge. The first thing that I love about Connilyn Cossette's books is that there are so many of them and that she writes them, and like they just are always, I always have a book to look forward to with her because her books just keep coming out and that's all I need in life. So that would be how many of them there are. The second thing I love about her books is how intriguing they are. They're really easy to flip through and fly through and read. They're just great for like weekends when you just want to light a candle and binge read an entire series. I love her main characters and how like multifaceted they all are. They all have interesting struggles, and I enjoy how like complex the characters are in her books. That's really amazing to me. I love the setting of her books. I love Egypt and the years that they wandered in the desert and these cities of refuge. She does a great job of explaining the setting of her books. I love how she takes little bits of history that you wouldn't think would make an interesting story, and she builds an entire plot around little interesting facts that might otherwise be forgotten. Now, this one's a little bit cheesy, but y'all, I can't not say it. I love the male leads in all her books. They are so great. They're such great characters. I love just all of that is adorable, okay? Okay. And building off from that, the romance in her books, like, it's not like the main focus of the books, but gosh, is it swoon-worthy. It's fantastic, and you're missing out if you haven't read them. I love how her books all tie in together and how the characters just keep growing because, and I don't know about you, but when a book ends and I want to know more about the side characters, I want the author to write more books about the side characters, and she does, and they build off of each other, and it's fantastic and beautiful and wordly and wonderful. I love her vivid descriptions. They are amazing, and they just are such a great way to draw you into the story. and I love it. I love her titles. They're so intriguing, and they're not like the typical title. I don't know if that's even a thing, but her titles are like they're just really captivating. And when I see the title on the spine in a bookstore, I'm like, what on earth is that about? That sounds so intriguing. Her titles are they're great. They're just the titles I want to have, if that even makes sense. This one is not really necessarily a writing thing, but my goodness, does Bethany House do a great job on her book covers or what? Because those covers are just stunning. I want to face them all out on my bookshelf so that when people come to visit, they can just look at the book covers and we can all just sit there and like, I love in her books the villains, or maybe, you know, if the situation is the villain. She does a great job of creating a plot that's intriguing and that is a battle, and there's darkness and there's light, and it's very compelling, okay? That's all I can say. I love getting to know her characters' individual quirks and personalities and how each of them are just so well-rounded. Mariah in A Light on the Hill loves to cook, and it's a thing, and Sophia in her next book, Shelter of the Most High, loves the ocean, and I just love getting to know those little details about her characters. She does a great job of just making characters, okay? Okay. I'm trying to go fast here because 100 is a lot of things to love. Specifically, I love Counted with the Stars and just the story and just how unique it is to think about the Exodus from the perspective of an Egyptian and not an Israelite. That's just so clever and amazing, and wow, who'd have thunk it, right? I love that there is adventure in her books and that the characters go on these journeys and they learn things about themselves, and it's just so cool. Instead of just having them stay in the same place the whole time, there's just something about it that just is like, whoo, it's so good. It's so good. I love it in her books when there's a little element of suspense. I love how her books make me smile and chuckle to myself as I read things in a good way that are meant to be funny and that are meant to make me smile. This video is going to be a nightmare to edit, and I'm already seeing it and I'm thinking, wow, I should have chosen a different topic. I love how excited I get about her books because it's not often that you find an author whose work really excites you and who you genuinely look forward to each and every new release from that author. Her books just like, I am such a fangirl and I love looking forward to them and thinking, oh my gosh, when's the next one coming out? I just love that there is excitement and that excitement and enthusiasm for her books is contagious. Like everyone that I know that I've said, you should read this book, once they've read it, they've been like, oh my goodness, I love this book. Like, thank you. I know, I told you that you would. Like, why didn't you believe me? I love the plot twists in her books. Those I can't really talk much about because spoilers, but she does them right, y'all. She does them good. I love that there are no flat characters in her books. Every character has a personality that's interesting to read about. I love that her books oftentimes do unexpected things that you maybe wouldn't necessarily think of when you think of what biblical fiction is. Her books take this unique route and tell these unique stories that are just very inspiring. She just brings a new side to the biblical fiction genre that is cool and incredible. I love how she can demonstrate the principles of Christianity and of Jesus Christ and redemption through her books, even though they're set in the Old Testament. I love that her books have happy endings because happy endings are just full of happiness. I love that her books are fun and have some fun in them and they're not just all seriousness, but you can really enjoy it when you read it and like laugh out loud and just have fun, you know? On the opposite side of that, I love that her books have the ability to make me cry and can make me bust out into tears when I'm, feeling a little bit sad or when something has happened to a character that I really liked. I also love that her books make my heart race when something stressful is happening or when the characters are in a like a sticky situation, I genuinely get invested in that. And I'm sitting on the couch hyperventilating, and my husband's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm reading a book. And he's like, if the book is making you that upset, you should stop reading it. And I'm like, no. I also love that her books make me angry. And when something happens, I'm like, I want to go to battle for this character because that's so not fair. I love that every one of her books inspires me to do something or make a change in my own life or my own personality or how I think of things. I love how her books and her characters are relatable, and each one I can relate to and, really be like, yes, I understand this character's struggle. I understand what they're going through. I understand their fears and their anxieties and why they act the way that they act. I love how realistic her characters are. I just love how she makes writing look easy in general, because we all know it's not. I love that her books have inspired me to write my own books. I love that she's just a sweet and nice person in general. Like in real life, if you are messaging her or if you write her an email, she responds with such kindness, and she's just such a great person and so down to earth. And I know the authors are real people, but sometimes as a reader and as a fan, you can think, oh my gosh, this author, I can't approach them because they're royalty. And she's a great person. I love how she goes into so much detail when she's planning a book. She really can think about an idea, and just one little verse can spark an entire series. She just does her research and she knows what she's doing. I love how her books can teach me something and can teach me about a topic that I might not have otherwise known about from a historical and research perspective. They really teach me about the Bible and, about history. I love reading her author's notes at the end of her books. They're really cool. And I just think, in general, if you have to read a book, you should always read the author's notes, because it's so interesting to hear from the author's perspective how the story came together. I love following her on social media because you get those little snippets and you're like, oh my gosh, she's writing a book. I'm totally liking that on Instagram and sharing it to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and all the platforms because I get to keep up with her, and she's cool. She's cool like that, I love that her characters have flaws and that they aren't perfect, but it's okay because in God, they are made perfect. And that's just, they're so good. She does such a good job. I love that by the time I finish a book, I know the characters so well that they feel like my own friends and family. I love that when I'm reading her books, I feel like I have literally traveled back in time to ancient Egypt or ancient Israel or wherever that book has taken place. I love that I found her books at a point in life where I was experiencing a lot of grief and a lot of sadness, and her books really helped me get through that time and period in my life and encouraged me to get through it. I love how much spiritual depth there is in her book. Talking about faith can be something that's very multifaceted and very difficult, and she just instills those ideas and those themes into her books so well, and it's always so powerful. I love that her books don't always share about a Bible character that we know about, but rather invent her own characters. And rather than, writing a book about Moses, she writes a book about people who might have lived at the same time as Moses. I love how frustrated I get when I finish her books that I finished them, because I don't want to finish them. I want them to never end. I love the way she develops relationships between characters in her books. I love her writing style. I love how over the course of her books, her writing style has developed, and now I can only love it more because it just gets better every time. I love being able to cheer for the characters and root for them and just fully invest in the book every time I open page 1. I love how captivating her introductions are and how they really hook you into the story and get you involved from the very beginning. I'm only 50 things through and now this is getting hard. I can already tell this is going to be an exceptionally long video, but I'm okay with it. I love that her books have so many characters in each of them, and not in a way that it feels overwhelming, but that there's just this whole cast that comes together and tells this story, and it's just great. I love seeing all the different characters and all their relationships and all of the things. I know I already said that I loved the romance in her books, but I just have to say again how much the love stories in her books are just so cute and believable and really inspiring and motivating, and motivating is a word I've been using a lot in this video, but the love stories in her books are just so cute, and both of the characters have grown by the time they get together at the end, and it's just Love, marriage, what can I say? I love how original her books are, and they don't do the same thing over and over again, or they don't do the same thing that every other book does. They have their own unique stories and plot lines and things that make them stand out from all the other books on the shelf. I love how everything comes together in her books and weaves together, and no detail or scene is unimportant, but each scene has a purpose in the story and tells the story and tells a part of the story that's important, and it just builds up and up and up, and it's just incredible from a writer's perspective. I love that her books are rereadable, and even though I finished it, I can still go back and read it again and enjoy it just as much as I enjoyed it the first time. I also love that when I reread her books, I can learn something new from the story every time. So just because I got one idea from the first time I read it and one message came across, when I go back and reread it, there's another message there that's still waiting for me. I love how she really represents the gospel in each of her books, and how each one is just like, you can tell that God is working through the writing, and that the writing is full of faith and inspiring and incredible. I love the kids in her books, okay? Like, the kids in her books, the little kid characters are so lovable and adorable, and you just want to scoop them up and cuddle them and, you know, play with them, because she just, the little guys in her books are just so cute. Like I said before, that I love how her characters are completely fictional, and, you know, she invents characters and doesn't just tell the story from the Bible, the biblical figures perspective. I love how the biblical figures appear in her books, and how she weaves them in a way and draws them in that is so cool to see when they show up. It's like, there he is! There's the guy! There's Moses! And it's just, oh, it's so good. I love that the stakes in her books are very high, and that there's a lot of drama going on, and that there's just like that arc, it's just, ooh. I love that there are so many things to love about her books. I love that there's something in her books for everyone, in my opinion. I love that her books are so easy to read and easy to understand, because even though they have those deep concepts in them, and, you know, they can be very full of depth and, you know, inspiring and intriguing, like I've said, they're readable, and they can communicate those messages in ways that are very clear, even to someone who might not, you know as much about Christianity or faith or biblical history as someone else. They can still read them and understand them and apply those lessons to their lives. I love how shareable they are, and that I can just be like, oh my gosh, this is a good book, you have to read it, and people take my word for it, and they read them. And that when someone else reads them that you can sit there and be like, oh my gosh, did you read that part yet? Did you read this yet? Wasn't it so good? And you can just talk about it with them, and it's so much fun. I love how her books feel so real and so well researched and so believable, that they feel like real stories and real people and real things that happened, even though it's fiction. I love how when I'm reading her books, if I start it at night, I have to finish it, because it's so compelling that I will stay up till 3 a.m. to finish one of her books. I love that when I find out she's coming out with a new book, I will actually scream. I love that once I actually did stay up until 3 a.m. watching TV reruns in the background as I read her books, and someone leans over and they're like, how long have you been out here? And I've been like, oh, an hour, and it's actually been like 12. I love that I get to promote her books and promote them this way and celebrate the book launch for Shelter of the Most High, because it's a dream come true, you know, when you're a fan and you actually get to be a fan and make other people fans. It's just so exciting. I love that they are biblical fiction novels, and that they keep coming out, and that they keep filling up the market with this genre or subgenre of Christian fiction that I think is so cool and that more people need to know about. I love that her books have so many aspects of forgiveness and redemption in them. This pencil is wearing down. It used to be really sharp, and now it's round. I know I mentioned that I loved the covers of her books so much, but I love the spines, because the spines are also gorgeous. Just every aspect of the outside of the book is lovable. I love the dialogue in her books, and how I just want to underline things and highlight things and be like, that was so well written. I love how her books are so well written that they play out like movies in my mind. They would make fantastic movies, and they're written so well that they're just How many times can I say her books are written well, and how many ways can I say that? Well, I guess 100 since I'm here. I love her character arcs and how they really feel like they are so well-rounded and so rounded out. And it's not just like, the characters have taken a few steps by the end of the book. The characters have really grown and changed and been through so much in such a short amount of time, in so few pages. What it feels like if I was to write that, I feel like it would just be thousands of pages, but it really feels like you get to know a character and you know their story, and to accomplish that in the pages that are there is an incredible feat. I love that her books were some of the first books that introduced me to biblical fiction, and not just Christian fiction, but biblical fiction, and showed me that, wow, there's this entire subgenre and so many authors who do this, that it just was like opening Pandora's box to a world of fiction that I had never known existed and that I would not be the same without. I love that her books made understanding Old Testament stories so much easier for me, because a lot of times you read a book of the Bible and you read the Bible story and it makes sense, but her books really just help it click for me and help me apply them more to my life and help me study the Bible in a way that I wouldn't otherwise be able to, because that's what biblical fiction is. It's a parable. It's helping you understand something in story form. I love that her books bring otherwise unknown or unheard of periods in the Bible to life and can really help you understand what happened between, book to book. And her books provide such great context for the Bible and just really put things into such a great perspective. I love that her books were some of the first books that I ever featured on my Bookstagram and blog. I love that through sharing her books, I was able to connect with a bunch of other bloggers who shared the same taste as me and enjoy the same things, and I was able to find this community of readers and finally not feel so alone as a book nerd and a bookworm and the bookish person that I am. I love that her books inspired me not only to write, but to also explore writing biblical fiction, because I never thought it was something I could do until I read her books, and I really thought, I would love to take a stab at doing something like this. I love that her books literally changed my life. I love that her books keep me on the edge of my seat. I love that as I'm reading her books, I get so interested in the book that I start to theorize and imagine what's going to happen next. I love that every time I read a book by Connilyn Cossette, I think, this is it. This is her pinnacle work. It can never get better than this. I read another one and I'm continually amazed at how, nope, it just keeps getting better. I love how each of her characters stands out, and there are no characters that are really similar to another character. They are all unique and incredible in their own way. I love how much action that there is in her books, and that there really isn't a lull period or I can skip this page period. Each page is so full of action and entertaining things that there is no part that is skippable. I love all the little details in her books that just make it so much more tangible. I love how unique her writing style is from other biblical fiction authors that I've read. I know I said this before, but I love how her books make me cry. And I know, like I said, that, I love that her books make me sad, but goodness, some of the arcs are just so true to life, and so not just even that something that in an event that takes place in the book is sad, but just how happy they are and how they can make me so happy that I cry, not because I'm sad, but because I'm so happy. I love how when a book reaches the end, you're not really done with those characters, because a lot of times the characters you love will cameo or make appearances in later books, and you really just get to stay with them and you never really truly say goodbye. I love how every time one of her books comes in the mail, immediately I stop everything else I'm doing, even if I'm reading another book, and I have to read that one because I look forward to her books that much. I love how the characters struggle with things and grapple with things in her books and in their arcs, so much so that it really is compelling when they are able to break through whatever barrier it is, or can really just, by the time you get to the end, they've really overcome something, and it's just really interesting to read about and to see from their perspective. That's another thing. I love the perspectives in her books, and how when there's, first person in her books, it really is compelling, and how each perspective is so different and unique and fun to explore, and you really get into those characters' heads and get into their mindset. I love how passionate her characters can be. I love how her characters deal with real life issues and struggle with real life things like anxiety and fear and sadness, and they just go through those things, and just, it's It's not like their struggles are so foreign to our minds that we can't relate to them. They really do go through like real issues and they have real struggles. You know what I mean? I love how joyful the endings of her books can be, and how by the time the characters have, you know, gone on their journey, they really have this joy in them, and they just feel like the light of God, and that they're just suddenly very happy and joyful. And I love that theme, you know, that idea. I love that I'm blessed with the platform where I can share her books and talk about them, and that, you know, there are so many of you guys watching that are like, oh my gosh, like I read this book on your recommendation and wow, it totally changed like the way I think of things. I love how strong all the female characters are in her books. And finally, number 100, we made it here. I didn't think we would, but we did. Number 100. I love that Shelter of the Most High is coming out this October, and that it's available for pre-order right now, and that you guys can read all of her books right now and jump straight into the next one, because you're going to love it. And if that doesn't say I love her books and that you should read them, I don't know what does, because after listening to 100 reasons why I love her books, all 100 of you had better go and at least read one of them. Because if there are 100 things to love her books, at least there's something in there for you to love about them too. I'm Jenna Van Mourik. Once again, if you didn't know that already, I'm a book blogger and a writer, and I write and review books and things, mostly Christian fiction, Christian historical fiction, and biblical fiction. You can find all of my links to all my blogs and social medias and blah blah blahs in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you to the 100 of you that are subscribed. Like, I'm just blown away that there are that many of you out there, and thank you so much for everything. You guys are amazing. I really hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it for you, and as always, I will see you in my next one. Bye!